Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
Hi, everybody. I didn't hear the intro, so Mr. Producer, I hope that you did on your end.
I did.
Welcome to Political Head Trauma. I'm your guest tonight, or I am your host tonight, Holly. Jared is not going to join us tonight, and we actually are going to do some things differently going forward. But I have Mr. Producer here walking me through this, my very dear friend. Say hello, dear friend, Dwayne.
Well, hello, dear friend. Hi, Holly.
Hi, we're so excited to have you, all of you tuning in. Big day today. It's tax day. So, government didn't get every last penny out of you folks. Make sure that you, scrape more up. I've seen a ton of small businesses that pay all throughout the year. And on tax day, it's like, give me some more. And I often ask myself, how on earth would it be if the government just made you write a check for all your taxes at the end of the year? How fast, and let you keep all your money, how fast would things change?
There would be a tax revolt, Holly.
It would be huge.
Because I pay quarterly, and I have to write them a check. I have to write them a big check every quarter. Because I got three businesses. I got this podcasting business, I got a marketing business, I've got a hosting business, and I just write checks to the government every 3 months.
And it's bad
if everyone had to do that, there would be a tax revolt.
Hi, William. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you. If the truth is if all of us we got to keep all of our money, our profits or whatever from getting paid at work. And at the end of the year, we write a check to the government based on how much we made. There would be a fair tax overnight, or there would be a revolution overnight, because people now, we're just so used to it and we just pay it, right?
Well, and it's hidden. It's hidden because they just take it out of your check and you don't even know about it. Okay. If you look at your check stub, you'll see what they're taking, but it's painless because you don't have to write them a check. It just magically goes
and it's
from
been
your
that way
to them
since you started working. You ask a teenager who gets their first paycheck and they know down to the penny how much they've earned based on their hourly and the hours they've worked, and they get that first Uncle Sam gouge. And they're saying, what is this? What's Social Security? And what is this? Why am I paying this? It's that shock when they first get it. Well, think about small businesses who are trying to be successful. The more successful you get, the bigger the check you write. Yet if you have a failing business, you can write that off. That sounds like communism to me.
Well, the good thing about having a business is you have expenses that get deducted, just like personal deductions. So
but even with deductions, you're writing checks.
Try not to make any money, Holly.
Exactly. That's the thing. It almost ruins that entrepreneurial spirit where you're trying to make something a success, because the more successful you get, the more money you pay to the government.
Think of it this way. Some kid gets a new job. He's working for, maybe McDonald's or whatever he's doing, mowing lawns, working, and he's expecting $1,000. Okay.
Exactly. Right to the penny. He knows what he's.
And then his check comes and it's got $700 on it. And he goes, where's my other $300? Well, if that's a weekly thing, imagine that. He's paying $1,200 a month to the government. It's just kind of invisible and you just get used to it. So.
Yeah, it's true. And then you get me on this thing with taxes that I still will not understand. Why do we tax our military? Members of our military. Number one, they make nearly nothing. And why do we tax Social Security?
That was my next question, because I get Social Security coming, and if I make more than $1,700 outside of that Social Security, I got to pay taxes.
Yeah, but Social Security itself is a tax that you've been paying since your first paycheck. And
Since
then
I
they
was
tax you on a tax. This
since
is,
I was 15 years old, I've been paying taxes. You
yeah.
know.
So happy tax day, everybody. I hope
Well,
that you guys have all got your taxes in and paid early, and hopefully it's been an okay year as far as that goes. And I wish you all the profit, especially you business owners out there. I've been there. It is not easy, and it doesn't get any easier, but I wish you success, even if you have
well,
to pay a bit more.
and the
Um,
average person who's on a W-2, they get money back, but it's their money. It's
yeah.
oh look, I
That
got a big tax refund.
See, that's
No,
another thing. When you're getting a big tax refund, that means you're doing something wrong. You're not deducting enough, or you're not claiming enough dependents. And a lot of people use that almost as a savings account, which is the absolute wrong thing to do. Use your money while you have your money, because waiting till that end of the year for that big check, like a lot of people, I used to do it. I would just deduct nothing. At the end of the year, I would get my tax return, and it would be a good chunk back in my 20s.
it's a little bonus, but it's your money to begin with.
It's
Okay.
money I could have been making interest on
You,
rather than the government.
yes, rather than the government. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Should we talk about you, Holly?
yes, please. So, for many of you, I made a post yesterday letting everyone know that I was not going to continue with my race for District 29, the House of Representatives. And it was with a lot of sadness and a lot of prayer. And you know, I have some really great trusted people in my corner that have as much drive and passion as I have. And if passion and drive and belief in something so much could get you across the finish line, I would be moving forward. My heart is bigger, I think, than well, first of all, my bank account, so we'll be honest. But you know, campaigns are expensive, but that had nothing to do with it. It actually, I've been having some health concerns. Many of you don't know, as I have something called Nutcracker syndrome, which I recommend everyone Google it, because it is a rare condition. Mostly women have it. And normally it's found in girls in their 20s, and they're able to treat it. Well, I've probably had it since my 20s, but it didn't get discovered until last year. It does involve a lot of pain. It's your renal vein, which is compressed totally by your aorta and your mesenteric. It completely compresses the renal vein, so no blood can go through your renal vein into your kidney. So what happens, and what's happened with me, is that last June I had surgery, and they fixed it with a stent. But they noticed while they were in there, the renal vein is highly deteriorated, because this has probably gone on for 25 years. And it causes a lot of pain, because your body creates what's called collateral veins. And when the kidney cannot push the blood out through the renal vein, it starts to find other pathways to go out. Well, all those veins have nerve endings. So everything is, I mean, the reason I only had surgery is because of the pain. It was intense. So fast forward, I've had surgery and everything is going just wonderfully. The most healthy I had been in December. In January, I filed to run for office, and 2 weeks later, the pain started to come back. And after a number of different tests, and for any of you that's involved in health, in your healthcare in any way, you know what I'm talking about. You're waiting for one test to the next test, and it's 2 weeks out, or it's 3 weeks out. And, you know, when you are in a campaign, I've got 3 weeks till election from the convention. I am the only candidate that was running convention only, because I believe in the delegates. And that is where I would put my faith. And that's where, if I figured if they wouldn't put me through, that I have no business going through. But that makes my timeline quite short. So when the pain started and the test started, they discovered that my stent has failed. And I've got a blood clot now there. And so it's not going to kill me. But for every one of you that's reached out to me and on Facebook and phone calls, I wish I could talk to all of you and thank you personally, because it is so nice, and my family's been so amazing. this sucks. It sucks. I hate it, but I also feel like through this storm, I will get through this storm to really appreciate the sunshine. I know there is going to be light on the other end of this. I'm hopeful. Right now, they're just talking pain management, but there was a delay between your insurance fighting with the doctors, with the treatment plan, with your schedule, with all these things coming together. I was in a very quick, can we do this now, please? And they're all figuring it out. And I knew I wouldn't be able to be 110% before, leading up to convention and shortly after, whether I won or not, going into a primary. So with a lot of prayer and help from friends and my husband especially, my mother especially, I came to the conclusion that this was the right thing, even though it took other people letting me know that my health should come before my passion. And it did take a lot of convincing, actually, because I so badly wanted to run for the seat and represent my neighbors, because I have no agenda behind me. My agenda is nothing more than to get what's good for rural Utah and to make sure that we have conservative values and the party platform is represented and that we have a strong voice in the House. With that, I'm not going to recommend anybody. I am a delegate, and I still plan to do my job as a delegate and interview every single person running and make a decision, just like any of you who are delegates. I hope you too will do that and share with your neighbors and get their opinion. But I'm honored to have been a part of it, and I'm not closing the door. I may run for something in the future, but I've promised myself and my husband that I will be back to being me, where I can commit my time and energy in a healthy place. So, like I said in my post, please don't worry about me. I'm fine, and it just really sucks. Now, Tracy, for some reason, did not get my invite. I'm gonna send it over text.
Well, we're gonna miss you, Wally. You would make a good rep, okay? Just because you don't have an agenda and you're not backed by any kind of big NGOs or money or any of that. And
No.
and you're in a perfect spot because you know everybody wants you.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think that I've been
Well,
around long enough to know that not everybody agrees with me, but I hope that I've made enough relationships where they know they have a voice. I'm going to maybe push back on things I don't agree with, but I believe the Democrats love their community as much as Republicans, and I'm not. I just think our way of going about it is different. I've really, truly enjoyed meeting the Democrats on our show that we've met. And some just make me go further to my beliefs on this side, but others have brought me to understand at least their point of view. And when you're representing an area, it's about what is it we're protecting here. In rural Utah, we're special, and there's a lot of parts of rural Utah. And we all have our own thing that is special. This community, it's the people. Far and wide, it's the people. In your community, my goodness, you've got the views, Dwayne.
we have people here too. We have a really strong community up here. So
and you've got amazing people, but I mean, we're kind of out here in the desert, whereas you're looking up at these gorgeous mountains, and Utah is such an amazing place.
I have Mount Temp out my back window. So
the
backside, okay, because I'm in Heber, but it's
right.
I moved here to ski, and when I moved to Utah, I kind of died and went to heaven. And then I started looking around at all of the strange politics, and I'm going, oh, really? I thought I was moving to this nice conservative zone where it was red, but it turns out not so much. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Utah is such a beautiful place. We get an influx of people from everywhere,
right.
and so it affects the culture. It really does.
Well, my sad thing is we so badly need to keep it a conservative place, because to me, it's the best place to raise a family, is the most beautiful state. And I am biased, of course. I've lived other places. I do love that there is a love for each other here, and we encourage families here. And I know the major church here has a lot of people get bugged by that influence, but I think the influence of that church has made it even a better community, a more polite society. And I think it's worth fighting to keep it conservative, because what we've seen over the past 2 decades, especially, is we've watched housing become unaffordable. People have moved here cash rich, and they've been able to buy homes and price us out of homes. I mean, this used to be a place you could afford a home. You could afford a piece of property and a home and your family, and now it's getting tougher and tougher. But that's everywhere.
That's
in Utah,
everywhere.
A big flux of Californians that moved here happened in
Guilty,
Colorado
guilty,
as
Your
well.
Honor.
Yes, sir. It happened in Colorado, and the state turned
Yes.
purple pretty quickly. And I see that Utah, we're not safe if we just sit back and do nothing. So the more we can get people engaged, which is one of my biggest efforts, and I can do that from a bed, is try to encourage people to stay engaged, get to know these candidates, even if you're not a delegate, get to know what they represent and what they're bringing forth, because they not only have to get through delegates, they got to go through that party process. Many of them don't have to bother. They're gathering signatures. They're going around the party process, and they're just going to you through short media blips and wanting your vote. You don't get to know who they are and what they're going to do. And so that's why I believe in the caucus so much, because these people are actually going and trying to get in front of these people and know what their agenda is, if there is one.
The caucus is the greatest thing since
out.
sliced bread. When I moved here and found out about the caucus, I went, holy mackerel, this is republicanism at its finest. But then SB 54 gives them a route around it, and they can go by signatures. Your guest is here, if you'd like to talk to her. And
I'd love to introduce her.
I'll bring her in, and then when you're done, I'll come back and talk about what KMMU is doing. Okay?
Excellent. I would love that. I would love to introduce you all to somebody that I've talked about on the show very many times, and she is Tooele County's own county clerk, and her name is Tracy Shaw. She's a very dear friend, and she has been an absolute rock star for Tooele County. So welcome, Tracy.
Hi, welcome. Thanks. I'm glad to be part of it.
I'm so happy to see you. I was just giving people a little bit of information regarding my situation and my health and why that I decided to step down. And I appreciate you. You also were someone I trusted very much. You give me very good advice, and I thank you for that.
I'm always happy to be a listening ear for you, Holly, and it's sad news indeed that you had to withdraw, but I totally understand and respect your reasons for doing so. It's totally the right move for you at this time. I know it is.
Thank you. Well, you're also in a campaign, and you're also a convention candidate only. And you're also somebody that has been involved in the party with me. You inspired me many years ago with all the work you did in the party, and you still are a very good listening ear for questions and to all parties. I noticed that as a county clerk, you really understand how parties work and the importance of what they're going through and legal stuff and election integrity. That to me is one of the biggest things right now that people are talking about, which is why I wanted you, because who better than you to understand election integrity? And I would love to hear your thoughts on what you've done in the county as far as the election process.
Oh, sure. I'm always happy to talk about elections. It's a big part of what I do in the office and the integrity that we've worked really hard to maintain and to set up in the office. It's something that I plan to continue doing with another 4 years here in office. I'm grateful to be on the ballot again this year to run for a second full term. I'm unopposed this time, but that may not always be the case, and I don't take that lightly or for granted. I'm excited for what we've been able to accomplish in the time that I've been here. We've made a lot of changes in the office, and the law has also changed a lot just since I've been in an office, and what we have to check and what we have to verify. And one of the main changes that I made that I feel really helps to solidify things in the office is even just moving things around, and just really helping the staff to be more empowered to learn more in the office, to like understand the machines, understand what they're doing, understand why we're doing what we're doing is a big part of it. When I first came on, the things were set up in kind of a not really logical way. Like we were running over each other in the election room, trying to get from point A to point B. And so I wanted to set up more of a flow in the room that just even physically made it easier for us to process ballots and to like have things in a step 1, step 2, step 3, where there's a lot of different steps. We do those. The signature verification has been done. We do audits of that each election. And now with HB 300, here in 2026, we're going to be adding the last 4 digits of the Utah driver's license or social security number in addition to the signature verification. So that's something that the legislature came up with to add yet another layer of verification that we need to have in our ballots. And I look forward to implementing that process. It's going to be a little bit tricky, a little bit different than what we've done before. But we're in the process of doing testing now in preparation for the June election. And the state is also working on a lot of different things as well to help that happen. But it's a big part of what we do every day.
Well, and I've noticed having usually I watch the ballots whenever there's an election. You invite candidates as well as parties to come in and oversee and just watch the ballots in their little area. And it's like a well-oiled machine in your office. And I say that all the time. You've got a really great staff there, and they're all such a pleasure to work with. And, for any of you that need passports or you need, I've been there with passport. It's so great to have that hands-on information. It can be confusing. You might have to do a couple of things, but talk about walking someone through something that is otherwise very annoying. It's so nice. It's nice to have really sweet people there who are actually helping. It doesn't feel like a government building, if you know what I mean. It's not like going to the DMV. It's actually nice. No offense
There's
to
real
anyone.
people behind the counter. Yeah. And thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you've had such a positive experience in our office. It's something that I ran on. That was one of my main campaign promises when I first ran, was to have the doors open and to provide an elevated level of customer service. I feel that's something we've also accomplished during my time there, in that we completely changed, again, just physically, logistically, changed the office so that we could have 2 counters plus an ADA counter there, so that we could be serving multiple residents at the same time, where before it was just 1 counter, or there was a spot for 2, but it was very crowded and just wasn't very accessible. And so we've made those changes to kind of duplicate that, create a little more privacy where there are personal documents that you're bringing in and laying all over the counter as we're inspecting things there when you are doing passports. And so we make that effort to give a little bit of privacy there as we work through those processes that require those documents to be sent off and verified in order to get those passports and things. But I'm glad that you mentioned the staff and how wonderful they are, because sadly I'm losing a few of them. And so just for your viewership's knowledge as well as yours, so we are planning to be posting 2 job positions in our office. So if you or anyone you know is interested in maybe geeking out with me in the election office, then we're going to have 2 positions open. That'll be full-time positions. We're probably going to be posting those this week. So check the county website, and we're looking for the right people to join us here in the office and provide that elevated level of customer service. We're looking for people with those skills, as well as those that have the utmost integrity, as we are going to be working with election ballots and a lot of personally identifying information. not only passports, but we deal with marriage records. We deal with the voter registration database, which is a hot topic right now about voter privacy and things. And so we need people that know how to responsibly and professionally handle those types of tasks. So
right. So you're needing people who understand computers.
yes,
Saying, and who can work with people.
yes.
That's great. So they just go online and they look. Do
Yep.
they go to the Tooele County website itself, or do they go to the clerk's page?
They can just do a Google search for Tooele County jobs, and that'll be the first one that pops up there. It has a page where all of the jobs that are available for Tooele County will be there, along with ours will be listed there. There's several others there currently. So take a look at what the county has to offer. Working for the county has been a real positive move for many people in our community, and a lot of people find a lot of value there, and good benefits as well, and a lot of new things the county has added, perks and things that they've changed their policies in recent years to help make it be a more enjoyable place for folks to work. Things like they've installed in-office gyms, and they have fitness release time where you can take 30 minutes out of the middle of your day and go down and do some walking or some exercising to get away from your desk. And they have leave options for volunteering in your kid's classroom, or even for an outside organization. If there's a cause you enjoy working for, then they allow you to be paid on county dime to go help in the community in different ways. And those are just a few of the things that they've added as benefits to county employment. That's
incredible. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a healthy staff, they'll stay longer and they'll be happier and do a better job. I think that's proven. So if anyone's interested, please reach out and apply. I'm sorry to hear that you've got spots opening, because I know it's such a family to you over there. So that's probably not easy. When it comes to, we'll get back into the nitty gritty of it. When it comes to the state, and we get into changes that are being made on elections, mm-hmm. I know that the Lieutenant Governor's office is who will put out those changes. Isn't that correct?
Well, it kind of depends. I mean, the legislature is the one that makes those changes during the legislative session. It's up to us as clerks to be aware of those changes, regardless of whether the Lieutenant Governor's office, provides that information to us. Now, they're a really good partner. They oftentimes do help us to stay aware as a state, for clerks in each of the counties to know what's going on. But ultimately, that is up to each elected official to be responsible for knowing and implementing the legal law changes. And that's going to be the big focus of the upcoming Utah Association of Counties Conference. We have a clerk auditor affiliate group that's a member of that. And then we meet together here in just a couple of weeks at the end of April. We gather with a lot of the other county organizations, and that's the prime subject. We call it the Legislative Management Conference, because this is a conference that we hold every year after each legislative session, just so we can get together as different groups and talk about that very thing, about how we're going to implement the changes, what has changed, what passed, what didn't, so that we can be thinking about that and getting those things in place in time for elections. Or May 6th is the deadline for many of the new bills. And so we'll be working through those details, not only as individuals, but as a group, working out best practices. Because even though the law might be the same for all of us, there's 29 different counties that sometimes interpret it or maybe implement it in 29 different ways, but we're all compliant in our own way of how we go about it. And that's what's beautiful about our election system, not only here, but just even nationwide, how it's decentralized in so many ways like that. It makes it really difficult to hack a system when we all kind of have different ways of doing it, different security protocols, different softwares that we use in office, election equipment that's certified. It's really just nice that hey, you can't just hack an entire system, because it's all different everywhere we go. So it would take an extremely coordinated effort and a lot of really bad people in a lot of really bad places in order to really compromise an election. I mean, there's vulnerabilities in every system, but we do what we can to mitigate those, whether it's physical security, cybersecurity, or otherwise.
So, some people would say that that's why that presidential election that we had that was so questionable, it wasn't the whole system, it was 4 counties and that were questioned because it would almost be impossible to hack into the whole system because, like you said, everything is chopped up.
Yeah.
And how much input do county clerks give when legislature is creating bills regarding elections?
I feel like there's a lot of information given, and that we have several of our clerks are gracious enough to spend much of their personal time or office time when they could be representing their county at home or working in the office. They leave their offices in the capable hands of their staff, and they spend so much time on the legislative hill. There's a group of 9 of us clerks that are on what we call the political steering committee of our affiliate group that work specifically to track legislation, to make the whole group aware of it, to kind of gather group input. And then that group, like, we open it up to the rest of the body to say, hey, how do we feel about this bill? And then many voices in that group carry that message on up to our legislators, those that are sponsoring bills, those that are voting for bills. And there's a lot of conversations that happen prior to a vote taking place. I know that many legislators value the input of our clerks, and especially if they're working on things that are specific to our offices, like elections or marriages or things like that, then the legislature has been really good to reach out to us, generally speaking, to say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? Sometimes they don't always consult us, but we end up following them anyway. We always track those election bills, whether they came to us or not, to say, hey, this is going to affect us in this way. Can you please reconsider? Or are you open to changes? It's a conversation that is had every single year. And we have several clerks in that lineup that are actively doing that on a regular basis. We speak at the committee hearings as well when they're voting on things. We try to support as many as we can. We oppose those that we don't. Some we stay out of entirely just because we prefer to let the legislature make their administrative decision rather than like having a really strong opinion one way or the other. It just really depends on the legislation. But yes, it's something that I didn't realize was as important as it was. I remember when I first came into office, I was a little bit annoyed as a resident, thinking like, oh my gosh, like, why I'm electing this person and I'm paying them to be in the office in my county. Like, why would they be up on the Hill? And I was like really bothered by this concept when I first was getting involved in politics, thinking like, I'm not paying you to be a lobbyist. I'm paying you to be in my county, to represent me, and to do the work of the office.
Right.
And it's taken me a few years to realize that that's a big part of what we do. Like, I don't want to spend all my time in the office doing the work that, without ever consulting the people up above about what I'm doing. Like, I'm the one that's doing it, right? The clerks are those subject matter experts, and they're up there passing a law that directly affects how I administrate in my office. Like, I probably ought to share with them what I'm doing and how it affects me. So I'm learning that lobbying effort is actually well worth our tax dollars, even if it's spent away from the office. The clerks are representing their voters and the constituents in their areas to make sure that we have legislation as best we can. We don't always win every vote, but we do what we can to help legislators make the best decision that they can.
Well, I think it's crucial because especially when you are the person who has to implement said legislation there in the county, and it's got to work. It's got to work for the county. It's got to work for the system that you have. And I think your input would be crucial. So I'm glad to know that, because I always wondered, like, do they just write this bill because it sounds good on paper, or are they actually getting input from the people who would do the implementation? A lot of people have said that Trump wants to ban mail-in voting. This is where I want to go next with you, because Tooele County's always, well, not always, but over the last 8 years, we've gone full mail-in, maybe 10 years, full
I don't even remember
in
what year
balloting.
it was.
And
Yeah.
it started in Stansbury Park. We were the first ones, and then it went to county-wide before it was statewide, if I can remember. So I know a lot of people love it. They love getting their ballot. And so as a county clerk, why don't you tell me what is the plan with that, and what are we going to see regarding mail-in voting?
Well, right now, the way that vote by mail is going, I mean, I can't speak to whether Trump is going to, quote, ban vote by mail. I don't know that he personally has the authority to do that. But again, that's a decision that's made at the legislative levels that I don't have a lot of control over. But as far as what's happening now, I mean, Tooele County is very much a fan of vote by mail. We have done the automatic ballot send out to all active registered voters historically, and that will continue through the 2028 elections. Voters have between now and 2029 elections to declare how they want to vote, because the state has passed that law that we're going to stop sending ballots automatically to every single active registered voter. Now, that doesn't mean that vote by mail is going away. That just means it's not going to go out automatically. So many voters right now, each election, we're sending out that information to how you can make that declaration. If you want to vote by mail, you will still be able to continue to do so. And you can declare that each election. You can do that online at vote.utah.gov. In the primary election ballots that we're going to be sending out, there will be some instructions on the ballot insert that direct you on how to make that declaration. And you can choose to vote by mail. You can choose to vote in person and no longer receive election ballots by mail. And that's something that would take effect immediately after the election or after that declaration. So if you make that declaration today that you don't want to receive a ballot, that you want to vote in person, then you will not receive a ballot for the June primary. Now, that's something you can change every single election, or you could be one thing today, change it tomorrow, and we would be processing that one by one, each of those requests as they come into office. So don't feel like you're stuck one way or the other. If you want to receive a ballot by mail, you still have the right to vote in person if you want to. You just won't be able to vote both in person and by mail. You have to choose one or the other. But it's okay to receive a ballot by mail and then change your mind and go vote in person, which will always be an option. Voting in person will never go away, in that we have to have some vote centers available for every election for ADA access for voters that need assistance or have difficulty signing a ballot, those types of things. So the vote centers will always be there. And I think they'll continue to grow. And that is one of the other things that I'm looking to accomplish in my next 4 years, as far as how we vote. New legislation has been passed that we aren't allowed, we being county clerks, we are personally responsible now for ensuring, to the best of our ability, to the best extent allowable by law, that we don't have lines at vote centers longer than 30 minutes. And that's a really tall order. I
Wow.
mean, I know many of you probably were in a line that was longer than 30 minutes in 2024. And that was rough. I'm not going to lie. As my first presidential election, I learned a lot about the difference between a presidential election and a not presidential election. And there are differences in what it takes to facilitate that. It was my very first one. We got through it. We survived, but I want to do better in 2028. And so something that I've been working on, not only last year, but leading up to it every single year between now and 2028, when we have a second chance to be successful here, is I've laid out an equipment plan. Meaning, like, I don't want to just surprise the county with a big equipment ask. I've been getting a little bit of equipment each year because I know it's going to, in order to facilitate that, in order to reduce the lines, then I have to reduce many single points of failure, meaning some of our equipment failed on election day. Printers went down. We lost internet, things like that are obvious single points of failure. I've been working to create, backup plans for each of those, having extra printers on hand, making sure we have the equipment. If the internet goes down, it doesn't matter because we've got Starlink available to dispatch at a moment's notice. Things like that I'm putting into place right now. But it's also going to take more people and equipment to reduce those line wait times, even if all of our equipment is functioning correctly. And so I'm working to open up a 4th vote center, which will really be in 2 different rooms at the county building. It'll be an interesting logistical idea that I have, where we'll use the room upstairs in the county building where we normally hold it, as well as downstairs at the same time. And so we'll see how that goes, and hopefully that helps to alleviate some of the long waits that some folks experienced previously.
Well, you also opened a 3rd in-person voting this last 2024 election.
Correct.
And that was great. And that flow seemed to be really reasonable. You had a pretty good, I think the county, because it's the county, had the longest lines because people know to go to the county. But it felt like what Grantsville and Stansbury Park had pretty good lines that were just moving all day long. Did you find that a 4th maybe or a 5th maybe needed? Or do you think that we are in a good place with 2 at the county and 1 in the other areas?
I would have a total of 4, what I would consider to be 4 for the 28. We had 3 in 2024. We had 1 at the county building, 1 in Grantsville, 1 in Stansbury. We did experience the internet outage for several hours in Grantsville, and that kind of brought that to a dead standstill and kind of backed things up for a while. So I feel like Grantsville could flow better if we hadn't had that, but there was a bit of a wait. There's also not space at the fire station for long lines there, even 30-minute lines, because we were getting people lining up out into the fire truck bays, and it's really just not the safest or most accessible area. And so for this year, and we're giving it a try at the Grantsville Junior High School in the gym. So we'll have a lot more space. It's ADA friendly. We'll be able to accommodate lines in a school indoors where things are a little safer than out there in, fire truck bays. So we're doing a first test of that here in June, and hopefully we'll have any wrinkles ironed out for the November election, which will obviously be larger. But it's a good time to do some trial runs before we get to the 2028. So again, I'm already thinking 4 years ahead of where I am now to try to make this as seamless as possible for our voters later. But for 2028, we'll keep a Stansbury location. I'm still kind of wondering if that school is the right one, like logistically, probably. I think that one could work well as well. And where we had it there at the Old Mill Elementary, but again, we had some printer failure there that caused some problems, or toner, something to that effect. And so I think if we just have some backups to avoid those types of situations, that the line can move a little faster there as well. But having the 2 vote centers at the county building, where I agree with you that those lines were definitely longer because that's just where most everybody goes, will help to be able to take down that line in a quick hurry. And I'm already going to be employing new poll workers and election workers for these elections now to help get them some experience so that they're ready and trained and fully experienced by the time we get to that 2028 election, where I'm going to need everybody and their dog to help me pull off a seamless election with 30-minute wait times or less, and things just flowing smoothly is my ultimate goal. I don't promise perfection, but I'm sure going to try and hope for the best. And I certainly am striving to do that in my campaign this year.
And see, anyone who knows you, they know that is just like you, to be making a backup plan for the backup plan, because that is you. You always have every T crossed and every I dotted. It is one of the beautiful parts of your personality, and probably one of the annoying parts as well, is how perfectionist you are when it comes to the level of elections. You've been passionate about elections, about good government and well-run government as long as I've known you. And so I think you're in the perfect job, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
People that I've always liked the option to take my ballot to a drop box. You have drop boxes all over the county, and I recommend all the time, rather than put it in the mail, put it in a drop box. The clerks are manning that. They're making sure that your ballot is counted. You've done a lot there. And do you see a need to add more drop boxes? Is there anything changed as far as drop boxes versus mail that you have seen through this last election?
I don't really see a need for more. In fact, I feel like we have some extras that are kind of unnecessary, but the law requires me, that is a change that happened several years ago, that necessitated having a ballot drop box in every city, town, formally organized jurisdiction here in the county. So we have boxes, as you said, all over the county. I think there's 10 of them. But we have to have one in Wendover, in Vernon, in Rush Valley, Stockton, all of those towns, large and small. Tooele has 2, Stansbury has 1, Erta has 1, which has been really helpful. And I'm not opposed to that in that it does provide a lot more accessibility for the voters of this county. But, is that the best use of our taxpayer dollars? Because they're expensive to buy, just even outright, to pay for, one of the ballot drop boxes that would go out to like Vernon, for example. We're looking at probably $3,000 to $4,000 just to even buy the box, let alone the labor to install it, the cover to put on it,
the location to put it in.
Right? We have
That
to coordinate that.
Doesn't it have to be a camera or at least a lit parking lot or something?
Yep. The law does require that it has to be ADA accessible, meaning someone in a wheelchair could roll up to it. It has to be the right height. It has to be monitored, whether by a human or by a camera. If it's outside, then it has to be 24/7 camera covered. If it's inside, then it just has to have like a human nearby to monitor it during business hours. And so we've had to make a lot of different agreements with different cities and towns to facilitate that, which is fine. Like, I'm not opposed to that. But where I have a little bit of a mixed feeling on the value is that when for example, out in Wendover, there was one election in recent years where we had a total of 5 ballots dropped into that box. Now, there's not a lot of voters out in Wendover. I think we had that year like 183 voters total. Only 5 used the ballot box. Others probably sent it in by mail because that's what they were used to doing for many, many years. But now we've got those 5 ballots. And so what do we do with them? Like, is it worth 2 people, because ballots always have to be covered in 2s, right? Nobody handles ballots alone as part of our chain of custody procedures. So do I have 2 people either that work in Wendover, like the city clerk has been very kind and the city officials there have been really good to work with us to ensure that those ballots are safely delivered to us. But like, that's 2 people's time driving several hours. So that's wear and tear on a vehicle plus gas, their hours, just to drop off 5 ballots. Is that worth it? I don't know. To that person, it probably was. To those 5, I'm not here to tell them yes or no. It's an administrative decision. I put a box there. We're going to take care of it because that's what the legislature has decided. Do I think we need one out there? No, I don't think it's necessary, meaning like they could have put a stamp on that and it would have arrived to our office just the same, and that would be a little bit more affordable. But if that's a cause of concern to that one person or those 5 people, that they would feel more comfortable knowing that they're city officials and are personally handling that rather than the postal workers, then I'm not here to get in the way of that either. So we made that investment, and the state helped to fund that. And that legislative requirement, they did allocate money for that several years ago. And so that was really helpful and made me feel better about making that change because they put their money where their mouth was instead of just giving us an unfunded mandate and saying, go put ballot boxes in, and by the way, you need to pay for them, which wasn't the case. So super grateful for that.
That reminds me of something that happened, I think in 2024 in Washington County, where they said the mail was picking up the ballots and it went to Las Vegas to be processed and then to be brought back to be counted in the county clerk's office.
Yes.
And the dates ended up making the ballots void.
Correct. There was some controversy there.
So did they fix that?
They did. Yes, they passed some new legislation. Part of the problem was they required the ballots. Like, we had a state law on file at that time saying ballots must be mailed within Utah in order to help reduce the problem that I had when I was first elected in 2021. We had 1,400 ballots in Lake Point that didn't arrive with the rest of the county. That was the year that they were voting on whether or not they wanted to incorporate as a city. And so as part of that, those ballots were metered, like postal metered, differently than all the rest of the ballots in the county, because theirs had an extra insert. It had a map in there saying, hey, do you want your city to incorporate? Yes or no? And see the map, this is the proposed boundary. And so they had an extra thing there. So they weighed a little bit more than all the rest of the ballots in the county. And as a result, they got metered differently. And there was a postal error where they got sent by like regular junk mail rather than like first class ballot, top priority kind of expedite that we would normally see with ballots. And so I'm getting like ballots are being returned from every area of the county except for Lake Point. And then I started getting calls from the Lake Point residents saying, hey, I haven't received my ballot yet. Haven't received my ballot yet. And I'm like, hang on, it'll come. And I was just like trusting that. And you know, postal workers make mistakes too. Someone put a tray in the wrong spot, but it was getting like concerningly late. And that comes from, you know, that's one of the reasons why that legislation exists, is because the postal or the facility where we were doing our ballot printing was actually housed out of Phoenix. And so they put those ballots in the Phoenix postal service. And that's what caused them to be like, it wasn't a Utah. If it had been dropped in directly to Salt Lake, then there wouldn't have been all that. It would have just come straight to us. Whereas it went to Phoenix first. And so that's where that legislation came from, was examples like mine. I wasn't the only one, but I think I was probably the reason for that policy that year, because it was a big deal. When 1,400 people just aren't getting their ballots, that concern went all the way to Washington and the lieutenant governor's office, and everybody was poking everybody everywhere to say, where the heck are our ballots? Because they said, well, we have proof they went into the postal system, so where are they? So that created the law that says we want ballots, like that first initial ballot mailing that we do must be mailed from within the state of Utah. And so that fixed our problem going forward as a county. And so I was super excited to not have to deal with that ever again. But that was, you know, one of those unintended consequences that happened when, you know, our southern counties here in the state, that they were assigned, like their default processing center for postal stuff was in Las Vegas, as you said. Then it created this interesting dynamic where, okay, I'm required by law now to send it from the state of Utah. And so what was happening is they were going into, let's say, the Provo Postal Center, for example, or maybe there's another one down south. I'm not super familiar, but either way, they did the drop there because they have to mail it from within Utah. But then because of the way the postal division had like regions broken up on their end, it went to Provo first, but then they had to reroute it to Vegas for processing. And that was just their assigned distribution hub, where those of us up north are assigned to Salt Lake. It made a several days worth of difference in there that caused that delay in a really controversial, very tight Congressional District 2 seat between Colby Jenkins and Celeste Malloy. And yes, that made a lot of big headlines. But then the legislature responded by saying that, well, okay, we'll make an exception for those that it has to be within Utah unless you're assigned to that postal thing, that hub down there. Then we'll let you do the first one if that's your assigned hub. Then go ahead and do that. But all the subsequent ones still need to be from within Utah. So,
I mean, that could affect the outcome of an election. As close.
Yes, it very well could have. We won't know because we weren't by law eligible to count those ballots at that time. That was a really tight race, and with a recount and everything. So, yeah, that was definitely an unintended consequence. And sometimes you just don't know that.
Right.
As a legislator, you pass a law, you do your best, and then something happens, and we just do our best to adapt and adjust and fix it as we go. And that's what's beautiful about our our system that we have of government, our three branches, that we have the ability to change, and we can revisit this, and we can talk about it and what's the best solution, and come up with a lot of really good ideas, and then try again in the next legislative session to refine our policies to hopefully resolve those problems and not create three more. That's the goal, right? To prevent that from happening.
I wonder, I think a lot of people worry about election integrity. We hear it said all the time. I know that throughout the SEC, when I was on that with the state party, and in certain circles, uh, people challenge election integrity. And the one thing I keep coming back to is you are challenging your clerk's office. So if you think that, if you're in Washington County, or you're in Utah County or Tooele County, if you have an issue with your clerk's office, you go to your clerk and you figure this out, because though the clerk's party choice and who they belong to it doesn't affect their process. And if their process has an issue, that's what needs to be discovered. And I feel very blessed, because I find myself in these discussions saying that we have a very transparent county clerk. She invites the public in before elections and lets them see the process. You're very transparent.
Thank you.
You've also, when I've asked you to come out and explain elections, you're happy to do it. You do it for the other party as well. You'll do it for all parties. And, I think that where you get into election integrity, I hope people know that it can be a word that's thrown around a lot, but every vote you make is going through your county clerk's office. And so get to know your county clerk's office. Get to know
100%.
what's going on there, because you can say, oh, it's all fixed and it's all this. When I happen to know, I know the intricate parts of what you do, and you found mistakes before that were pretty amazing, and it changed. It really changed the whole state, and people were, you've done great things because of how intense you are on making sure the numbers add up, they're right, and every vote is counted. Now, every county clerk's not like you, I'm sure. You are very amazing and unique. However, I also know that you work with all of our state clerks and have a great relationship with them, and you're highly admired by them. And so I think if people gave their county clerks a chance, regardless of their party, go in and find out how your county clerk's office works, and look for that opportunity. Go ballot watch one night. It's you get to see the fine-tuned machine that it is. And I'm really grateful for the people that do your job, and your staff, especially. Like, you guys just really work well together.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me, but I hope that my counterparts also can share that sentiment. I know that there's a lot of discontent out there, and I think that's the best advice that you gave. I don't know of a county clerk here in the state of Utah that would ever say, I don't want you to come into the office and see what we're doing. We want nothing more than to share, to help the public feel more confident. We would love for you to help. Heaven forbid if you're concerned about the process, sign up to help. You might even get paid. I think we're required by law to pay you if you want to come and help process ballots. You want to help come do signature verification. There's training you have to take for that piece, but come and do it. And we would train you how to do that and be part of it. Counties around the state some of them have a big problem getting enough people to help them do this extra work, because it is a heavy burden for many of our counties to process that many votes in such a short time. And the scale is relative, right? You've got, hundreds of thousands of ballots in some counties, and some have, a few hundred is all. And so, for the county that's small and only has a few hundred, they're doing everything by hand. To the counties that are mid-sized like ours, it takes me an army of about maybe 10 to 20 people to do what I do here. But I couldn't do that without them. If I didn't have those people that were willing to help, I would be in a world of hurt. And I'm grateful to live in a county where we have so many people that I have an abundance of people to choose from in who I want to have help with me with elections. And we're growing that pool every day. But there are some counties where they can't get enough people. So no matter where you are in the state or even the country, there's a clerk somewhere near you that could really use your help. And yes, please reach out, find out or even if you don't want to come and work it, you're still welcome to come in and observe. That's your right as a voter. And I'm sure the clerk or staff that are dedicated to that would be willing to explain every single process about what's happening there. Transparency is a big part of what all of us do. And we all have a shared vested interest in ensuring that that is done correctly. Just as you said, regardless of which letter is behind our name, that's not something that really even comes into play. I'm personally a Republican, but I'm very good friends with and have a great deal of respect for several other clerks around the state that have a D or any other letter behind their name, because really, as you said, this is it should be a relatively neutral position in that, the duties of our job are not specific to party, and every person that fills this seat should, be coming at it through that lens. I spend time with the local Republican Party. That's where I came from. I dedicated like a decade of my life or more. I kind of lost track after so many years helping at the party level. So you're right. That's where I learned a lot of it, and where I gained a healthy respect for elections and just the caucus convention system as a whole. I too came from out of state, as your former guest mentioned. Moving to the state and finding that the system exists was really precious to me as well. I didn't realize how I grew up in Wyoming, where things were very different. And I just had no idea that this exists, and that I was feeling so empowered as a grassroots person in 2009 is when I woke up politically and actually started doing stuff and engaging, because I married into a political family. That's all they talked about, where I never talked about it before. So I owe much of my nerdiness to the family that I married into, because if you'd told me in high school when I was living in my own little bubble that I would be running elections in a county someplace, I would have been, what are you even talking about? So it's been a real journey for me, a lot of growth, and I love what I do now. Even if I were not elected again in the future, if the public decided maybe someone else was better for this or different, or we're tired of you, go away, which y'all have the right to do. And I respect that with the utmost honor there, that I don't feel entitled to this seat at all. And if the public opts to choose someone else, that's okay. Like I respect this job. And if I can't handle that, then I probably shouldn't be in this job. But even if I were not reelected, I'm confident that I would probably remain in the elections industry, because once it gets in your bones, it just stays there. So be careful if you're going to apply, because you might find that you really, really like elections and you want to keep doing it. It's kind of an addiction for me now. I totally would find someplace else to work in the industry.
You're such a nerd, Trace. You're such a nerd. Your election nerd for sure.
I kind of am, not gonna lie. And
I have a joke that says Tracy's never seen a spreadsheet she didn't love. She can put a spreadsheet together and it's just magical, and I just see Chinese. You often make fun of me that I am challenged when it comes to computers and things like that. But the one thing I love is that it is your passion, and it's something that you love, and you believe in it, and you fight for it, and you live by it. You always have, as long as I've known you. And I think that we've known each other probably since 2010, 2011.
Probably. That would be about right compared to whenever I woke up politically.
And we both woke up politically after Obama and the 2008 crash. And then it was different. I mean, I was from here and you were not, but we both kind of woke up to, wait a minute. And I think we both started to really, really look at how small our government was not. It was one of the number one employers in the country, if not the number one. And the Obama care and the principles Obama was pushing out were showing us in the future the potential to lose our country, or at least the free country that we have. And, I think we both kind of just really, we were Tea Party people. We're like, hey, this can't stand. We can't stand here and do nothing.
Right. I remember those days, not really knowing what to do, but knowing I needed to do something. And, that's how we both got our start, finding different roles and trying different things and finding our own path, where we ended up in leadership together in the county party. And I have a very healthy respect for what you have personally built here in this county with the local Republican Party and the many, many years of service that you've given to help build a structure that can only continue to grow. You have so many amazing relationships with people around the state at all levels, and so many people respect you as a chair, and what you have built here in the county and the passion that you have demonstrated as well. So
I tell everybody, I couldn't have done it without you. I mean, there's too many people like yourself that love it as much as me and worked as hard as you possibly could to do it. So this is ours, and I'm so honored that we were doing it together. And we share birthdays, folks. I know she's like 10 years younger, but we share birthdays. We're birthday twins. And you know what? We both love this community, and this community has given us a great place to raise our kids. And it's interesting because it's, when you really look at how great becoming a delegate is empowering, because it's a responsibility. And I don't think the average person day to day understands the delegate process as much, or the caucus process. Even Utahns that have been here forever, I know, because I was one of those people. I didn't really get it. But once I became a delegate, and I'm sitting across from Mike Lee, who wants to be a senator, or Mitt Romney, and I get to ask him these questions, and I get to ask follow-up questions. And I go back and I send an email out to my caucus attendees or my precinct and say, listen, this is my thoughts. This is what he said about this, this, and this. And trying to let my neighbors know why I'm voting the way I'm voting. To me, that was like, finally, I don't have to sit back and let politics happen to me. I got to actively engage, and I felt like I could make a difference and make things better. Now, Romney did get elected, and he stopped really showing up to delegates not long after. But you kind of see a trend in people that go through the delegates versus people who go and ignore them and just go through and buy their way in. Not all of them do. But the process is important. It's important because there's accountability to someone, and they actually have to answer to regular peon voters like ourselves, the unwashed masses, who want to know what you're going to do with energy, and what are you going to do about elections, and how are we going to make sure that our taxes aren't going to cost my mother her house, things like this, that actually, these actual issues that matter. And people who run for seats, folks, these are normal people who run to be your senator or and I'm talking about state and local and even national. I mean, Celeste Malloy is a normal person, but she's got a lot of degrees, and she's a dirt doctor, in her degrees. Impressive. But when you have local elections, they're normal people like Tracy and I, who just feel like we can add something, or we can do it differently. And we see a need that isn't being met, and there's a passion there that it is our geeked out. We enjoy the work. So I am grateful to anyone who throws their hat in the ring. Campaigning is not easy. And even with someone who doesn't have a competitor, you still got a lot of work to do. And that's got to feel nice though, right?
I'm not going to lie. Like it definitely is a weight off my shoulders that I don't have to do as much as I would as if I had a challenger. But I am a firm believer in still showing up. Like, I'm still attending the Meet the Delegate events, some as a delegate, but I'm excited for this Thursday. I'll have a chance to speak. So that's tomorrow
Night, right?
Yep. April 16th. We'll be at the Tooele High School, and people will have an opportunity. So even if you're not a delegate, you just want to learn more about who's running for the offices that are coming up and where they stand. It'll be a town hall style where folks can, the candidates will get to speak a little bit, I think a minute or two, and then they're just going to open it up to questions for everybody in the race. So if you have questions for your elected representatives at both local and state level, I don't know if there's any federal there, but we'll see. We'll find out together tomorrow.
Are they going to give people an opportunity? No booths? Is there
No booths
no
this time. They've had a couple of events prior where they had booths, where this is only a 2-hour event. So they're keeping it really tight schedule. So no like mixing and mingling. It's really going to be just like okay, we're going to put these people from this race up on the stage all at the same time. And then they'll get to say something. And then we're just going to open it up to literal town hall questions, whatever, like on the fly you all want to ask respectfully. Like, don't be asking anything that is going to bring the ire of the chair, or otherwise he'll shut that down in a quick hurry.
Doesn't sound like a 2-hour event. Can you imagine anything being only 2 hours where people can get up and ask questions to?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned, but that's what they're aiming to do. So yes, no booths tomorrow, but we'll see how long it goes. But they're even allowing uncontested candidates such as myself. I get a total of 5 minutes, and 2 of that is going to be me talking, and then like I might have time for one question because I ramble, obviously, but I'm just super detailed and nerdy about everything that I do. So all my answers tend to be a little bit long-winded, and I overshare sometimes, but like I can't help it. I just have to do that.
Yeah, we're not good together like that. And I mean, I would encourage all of you. If Tracy Shaw's on Facebook, she's you do the county clerk, the website there, right? And there's so many questions answered on that site. Agendas for the county council meetings are on there. You can get your marriage license. You can get your passport renewal. Like I'm only touching your elections. If you're a candidate, if you have questions about anything regarding the county, it feels like a lot goes through your office.
Yeah, we definitely wear a lot of different hats, and I'm definitely on the phone with someone different about something different every single day. It's something that I really love about the job, is that it's never boring. It's always something new and different. And it's, goes through these cycles where this time we're working on elections. Maybe tomorrow we're working on records and archiving. Now that's a thing that just I'm super geeky about too, that I didn't even realize I was geeky about until I got into office, is archiving. I mean, I've always been a fan of paperwork, and I know that's like the weirdest thing to say, but like I love paperwork, and it's one of my favorite things to do, to organize, to put things in order, to make sure that it's taken care of, that it's easy to read and understand. And so like that's basically what archiving is. And I just had no idea that this whole aspect exists here in the state of Utah. And I feel so blessed and so grateful that the state funds the Utah State Archives and the Utah Record Center. Those are completely free resources to the counties to utilize, and their sole purpose is to preserve and help to outline like retention schedules, like how long we're keeping records for and why, to make sure that the public has access to them. So that's like where your records requests, like your grandma requests and things come from, is the archiving is kind of like that overarching umbrella that covers all of that.
Is that just for like government meetings, or are we talking about marriages and genealogy and all of that?
We're talking literally every government record from every government agency flows through these facilities. I didn't even know they existed. But what's really cool is that counties like ours can submit our records from any department. So just this last week or so, we dumped off at the record center, I don't know, maybe 20 boxes of marriage licenses that are super old. And we don't reference them very often because people don't really need them. And if they do, then we have the digital copies in our office that people could request for genealogy purposes, or we have the more modern ones where people can get those for like, legal reasons, if you're doing like benefits, or maybe a spouse has passed and you've got to prove that you were married, those kinds of things. Then those are permanent records of our county, and so we can't ever throw them away, can't ever shred them. So like that, but that's an ever-growing pile of paper that like the county would have to just store from the dawn of time to it never ends, because everybody keeps getting married, and that's wonderful. That's one of my favorite parts of the job too, is marrying people. Didn't realize I was going to be doing that either, so it's just really cool. But how cool is it that I can just box those up, take them to the archives, and they will store them for us for free forever. It's a permanent record, and they will store them and house them for us. We just have to fill out a form and take the documents there. And they're so giddy when they receive them. We've got the right people in those offices, because they're just as nerdy as I am about elections. They are to records. They're like, we're turning in all these super thick, they're like these thick kind of books from like the 1800s that are just in my vault in the clerk's office. They've been there since I arrived. I've never opened them because they're way too cool to touch with my bare hands because I'm afraid I'll ruin them with my finger oils or something like. But it's got all this handwritten, beautiful cursive in these books that need to be preserved. Like they're just sitting there on my shelf. They're getting dusty and gross. And I'm like, I don't want to open this. What do I do with it? And so we're
What's it
partnering
of?
with them.
What's in there?
Like, sometimes it's like death records. Like they used to handwrite the marriages in a book rather than giving you like a piece of paper. They just had like, okay, these people got married on this day on line 1, and then line 2 is this. And there might be another piece of paper that references or something, but it's like death records, voter registration and things back in the time when it was like all handwritten.
That's
like,
amazing.
Like the minutes of council meetings or commission meetings back then, like all this. I'm like, I'm glad that nowadays clerks don't have to run on beautiful penmanship, because I don't think I would get reelected if that was the case after seeing like the gorgeous calligraphy that they all wrote with back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, these documents are just beautiful and amazing, and I want them to be preserved. And I'm so grateful that we have a place where we can send them, where they know what they're doing. They know how to preserve those things, and they're going to take care of them, and so that they don't just deteriorate sitting in my vault and we're never looking at them. Like they were so excited when I called them this week and said, hey, I've got like these like probably 30 books that are like huge and from the 1800s. Do you guys want them? And they went, oh, yes. When can we come? And they were just so excited. So
that's amazing. So if anyone wanted to see these books, is there a way for them to grab them, or do they go to the location?
Yes.
Look at them?
Like that's available to the public right now if they wanted to come into our office, but in a few days, they will no longer be in our custody. We will be turning them over to the state of Utah. But they work the same way. Just like you can make a records request at your local office, you could totally request to see this book, and they would pull it out of their storage system. They have a cool robot up there. Everything is like digitized and like it's stored on pallets that this robot pulls out. It's really a cool place to go and tour. If you're interested, they do offer that. There's free tours there. You can see what they're doing. They'd be happy to show you, but they will pull out those records and lay it open for you and like let you see whatever you want to see. And it's just there and available to the public.
That's interesting. And I'm not surprised, because Utah, I used to work in hotels, and a lot of guests we would have came into Salt Lake specifically to go to the genealogy library in Utah. And they were from all over the world. These people would come because of the way Utah has handled records and the way they preserve them. And another thing is it's important in the church, the Latter-day Saints, that, that is predominant here in this state, but it's kind of moved over into genealogy is now everybody gets into that. And the fact that that's preserved for them, I think that's incredible. I wonder how many other states have as much. I know that our genealogy library is pretty renowned as far as research.
Sure is. I mean, even when I first came in, that was something that the LDS Church was doing in our office. Like I arrived, and apparently they had been working with our former clerk on digitizing all of the marriage licenses within our possession as a county, because we didn't have that up to this point, I guess. And all of a sudden, one day, just shortly after I was elected, I got a thing in the mail, like a big thumb drive from the LDS Family Search, and they said, "Hey, here's all the records that we digitized for you." And I'm like, "What?" I was really confused because I didn't know they were even doing that. But how cool was that I was able to have every marriage license. I don't have to keep pulling them out of the binders or the boxes that we had them in. They were all tri-folded. It was so terrible. And it's like folding documents. I don't know if you know anything about document preservation, but every fold, and especially if you open it and close it a bunch of times, that just deteriorates super hardcore on those folds. And they were in these super old things that every time we opened them, it would just scrape all the documents if we had to pull one of those out. And it was just ripping and damaging the tops of those. So that was one thing that we did. I'm like, oh, we cannot be doing this to the marriage licenses. So I'm grateful we have the scans. That's like the digital copies. We don't ever have to open these again. But those are the boxes that we took, is we unfolded all of them, laid them out flat in boxes provided by the archives, and like now they're all flat, they're all in order, and they're never going to be folded again, and they'll be able to be preserved long term for that. So
Amazing.
I'm super excited.
Well, I'm just, that's never an issue I thought about when I think of the county clerk's office, and yet it's a very big issue. It's a very big issue. Records are, my goodness, they kind of affect a little bit of everything when you're talking about historical reference.
Sure.
I was curious, back to political stuff. When you want to register, let's say to vote in the primary, in the last few years, haven't they kind of changed how soon before you can vote in a primary, like Republican primary? Do you have to register as a Republican? This takes me back. I wanted to ask you this because I know a lot of people will say this, that in Utah, we have a lot of Democrats that will register as Republicans just to vote in the primary, and then they register as a Democrat after. So I remember that being an issue, or at least an issue people would say was happening.
Sure.
And it dawned on me, like, I'm curious who would know if that's happening. You would know probably.
I would.
That's happening. So share with us if there's
Sure.
rules with that.
Yes, I mean, that's another response by the legislature to that complaint. I think that many people shared that with the legislators, because a few years back, they did create some new law that required people to declare a party well before the primary. So currently, right now, that deadline is April 1st for the even years, meaning whatever you have until April 1st of any given even year to pick a party. Once you pick a party, that party is locked in up until the primary election is over to help prevent the very issue that you're discussing. So we notify voters that this last March, I sent out a postcard to every registered voter in the county just to let them know, hey, this is your party affiliation right now, what I show it as, and you have a month or so to make a change if you want to before it's going to be locked in. And so that created a little bit of buzz, and we've seen a lot of those affiliation requests come to our office. There are some exceptions to that. For example, an unaffiliated voter, if they're currently unaffiliated, then they still can affiliate, even though it's after the April 1st deadline. But once you step into a party tent of whatever your choice is, then it's stuck there. You're stuck inside of that. You can't come back out or pick a different party after April 1st. So we've already passed that deadline. So whatever you are now, that's what you will be. And that's the ballot that you'll receive for the primary election. In Tooele County, the only party that's currently primed to even have a primary election is the Republican Party. The other parties don't have enough candidates to trigger a primary, so that wouldn't be needed for those other parties. Something to note is that Republicans hold closed primaries, meaning you do have to be a member of the Republican Party in order to take part in their elections, as opposed to other parties hold open primaries where that isn't a requirement. But where the Republicans are holding their thing, if you want to vote in the June election in the Republican primary, you would need to either be a Republican currently, or as an unaffiliated voter, you can affiliate as a Republican and receive that ballot. You can do that clear up until and through election day. You could affiliate as a Republican the day of. So that deadline's a little bit more flexible for those that haven't declared a party yet. And that is the biggest party in the state of Utah, is the unaffiliated party, where many people choose not to engage at all. So I don't want people to panic when the ballots go out in June and you didn't receive one. It's not because I didn't do my job or that I am trying to suppress your vote, which sadly, that is the accusation sometimes. Really, it's just a matter of you chose a party. I'm only sending them to those that are supposed to have them. And if you want to receive one, then the law either allows me to do that for you or it doesn't. And I'm sorry if that upsets you.
It's not personal.
It's not my fault, I swear.
Well, and we're thinking, our unaffiliated party is a party. People who don't choose either or, and they vote based on candidate. That is the most that is out there. And so that's for the Republican primary. Going into the general, are there any stipulations for the general, or is that just it's an open because it's the general?
Yeah, the general has no party restrictions. Everyone will receive the same ballot regardless of what party you are for that one, and everyone will receive one that is eligible to. And you don't have to vote. Like if you're a Republican, you don't have to vote for a Republican. You can pick any person on the ballot that you want. Whoever signed up to be there, you can pick whoever you want, because that's a question that we often get. And people are just like, well, I don't want to be a Republican because I don't always want to vote for a Republican. I want to vote for whoever I think is best. And I'm like, you totally can. Like that's still an option. And people, it's confusing, especially where it's only every other year, and the municipal stuff is very different in the odd years. It's a problem that we have every year with people just being confused. Well, last year I did this and I got one, and this year I'm not. And it's just really confusing in some ways for our voters. But we do our best to put out the information and let people know what's happening when and where.
And I hope everyone votes based on the person and not the party. As much as a party person as I am, I would hope that we're getting good leadership that follow our values and the values we want. That's between you and your ballot, right? At the end of the day. So vote how you will, just vote Republican.
One final thing I do want to say, before, I don't know how long this goes or what.
We're about to wrap it up, actually.
Okay. So. Well, one final thing I'll just say, especially when you say, I hope people vote for who they think is best. I'm kind of right now, I just really want to emphasize that I hope people vote at all. It's kind of breaking my heart. I've received several, probably, I don't know, a dozen to maybe 20 requests in my office to have their names, voters are calling in to have their names removed from the voter rolls. And that breaks my heart as an election official. Sadly, people are a little bit upset about the voter privacy laws that recently just took effect, where they got rid of the private voter status and now and the withheld status as well. And they've moved it to be at-risk voters or public. And those are the only two privacy options now. And a lot of people are very upset about that, to the point where they feel like they're being asked to choose between having voter privacy or having the right to vote. And some are opting to not vote when faced with that decision. And that really breaks my heart. And if you're feeling that way, any viewers that are out there, please reach out to your legislators to let them know your thoughts about that, especially those that are up for a re-election. Because the person that is your current representative may not be that person that wins that race, that carries your thoughts forward. So I think that's a really important question to ask right now, where those candidates are up for re-election, many of them, and they have opponents in the race that may win. And that would be a fantastic question to be asking as a delegate, where they stand, all of these candidates, on these issues about voter privacy, if that's an important issue to you.
Can you explain that a little bit? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that want to keep their affiliation private, right?
Yes.
And that affiliation, along with how often they vote, which elections they vote in, that data, they have elected to keep it private. Well, legislatures has deemed that you can't do that. And
exactly
so we're talking about, I'm thinking right off a hand, police officers that I know. Mm-hmm. Don't want people knowing when they vote or who they vote for. Teachers don't want people knowing when they vote or who they vote for. People who have a restraining order, or they're fear for their life for some reason. They don't want their status being out there. So if they were to register as unaffiliated, then they kind of, for those people who don't want anyone to know how they vote, and they just registered unaffiliated, would that fix that?
It would not. Unaffiliated voters would still appear on the list as a public, because that would be a public registration. So anyone can collect that list or request that list at any time after these changes take effect. So right now, the voter list requests are on hold. They're paused while the legislature and the lieutenant governor's office have sent out letters and notices to any affected voters. So if you had the private or the withheld status previously, then you would have received a letter from the lieutenant governor's office informing you of the change. So the groups of people that you were talking about, Holly, like the police officers, the teachers, those with like protective orders, There is that at-risk designation that they are 100% eligible for. It's basically the same as what withheld used to be. But what they did is they just forced everybody out of the withheld because there was a lot of people that had that status. They got kind of grandfathered into it, even though they weren't part of those groups that actually need protection. And that's a big part of why the bill passed, in my opinion, is to make sure that only those that actually need those protections have them. And then the rest of the list should be publicized so that people can do public audits and things. Is like, it was a transparency reason, was kind of my understanding as to why the bill was presented and passed in the first place. But there was lots of debate about it and lots of different opinions about that. But those that you mentioned are eligible to fill out the form that the lieutenant governor sent to them, or we have the form posted on our website. People could print that off. And it's not just the individual who is a member of that group, like a law enforcement officer, as you said. It's all members of voting age within their household are also eligible for that protection because of their connection to that person that is in that qualifying group. So we're talking victims of domestic violence or dating violence, the law enforcement, as you said, members of the armed forces. The code does designate public figures as eligible. So like teachers would fall into that. I would direct people to reference that code that's referenced in your letter to kind of take a look at that and see if you feel like you qualify, because that is kind of a broad definition of what a public figure is and isn't. So I'm happy to review that with anybody by phone if they have any questions about it. Other ones, I'm just going from memory, so I apologize if I'm missing a group or two. But protective orders was one of those for sure. I'm drawing a blank if there's something else.
That's okay. So
the form is there.
Exactly, when you say it's public information, what exactly is public? Is it your address? Is it your phone number? Because I mean,
Let me walk you through it. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the public voter registration status will be exactly what it was 2018 or prior. This is exactly what it used to be. So it's not necessarily something new or something different than what we've done before. So it will include public information. If you have the public status, will be your name, your address, your political affiliation, your vote history. And that means what elections you voted in, not who you voted for. We don't track that, and no one knows who you voted for, but just that you voted in an election, period. That's all going to be there. What's not going to be publicized is your more sensitive data, like your social security number, your telephone number, your email address, your birth date, driver's license number. None of those more sensitive pieces of data will be released as part of this list. But some people are still concerned about like their political affiliation, as you said, or even their address. Like they don't want that to be out there. And so if you're concerned about that, then take a look at that at-risk designation form that Lieutenant Governor Office has put out. We're happy to guide you through that, point you to where you can get one if you need one, if you didn't receive one, or a member of your household needs one, and we can get that processed for you. You have until May 6th to make that declaration. And then May 6th, from then on, then the clerks have that much time between May 6th and May 25th to process all the forms that we receive in the office to give everyone those protections. And then May 25th is when list requests will be turned back on and information could be released at that point. So if you don't take action between now and May 6th, then your information may be at risk of being exposed to the public. So those that qualify should take action immediately.
So
Okay.
who decides if they qualify? Is it the clerk or is it the state? I
The
there's
clerks are
probably-
responsible to process it, but state code is what governs who we can accept and who we can't. So it's
Gotcha.
pretty straightforward. And each county will consult with their county attorney to determine, like, if there's questionable things, like if there's someone that I don't think they qualify as a public figure or whatever, like if someone makes something up on the form just trying to get it, but they don't qualify, then we would let them know that and make them aware of those changes. But most of them are pretty straightforward. I think I've rejected maybe one of the forms of the many forms that I have received, and we've been kind of inundated with this with these forms in our office. We're getting these requests every day, which is great. Like, I'm super happy to receive them and to help voters that qualify receive that protection if they want it. So not complaining, it's part of my job, but I'm just concerned that someone will forget to put the form in, because that's the only way you're going to get that protection again, if you had it previously, is to take this action now.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that was happening, but I think when we live in a day and age where your data is so important, and the fact that it's easily attained is a little concerning. But the reason for this, I guess, transparency is what they're saying. I just hope no one forfeits their civic duty to vote based on this. And if it's really bothering you, get in touch with the clerk and see if that will meet something, if you meet that standard, but call your legislature, because again, they are doing what they think you want. And it's loud voices up there that are telling them to do these things. And if we say nothing and we let them be done, well, it affects all of us. So if they're not being guided by you, the voter, then who's guiding them? It's the people who show up and the people who are there to lobby an idea or an agenda. And
yeah, this was definitely a hotly debated topic at the legislative session this year. This bill was definitely hammered out. Really strong opinions on both sides of this issue. Many clerks were opposed. But the bill passed, so we're just doing our jobs now of administrating the legislative decision, and the executive branch is where we are to that decision. So I honor and respect everyone's decision, even though I wasn't personally in favor of that. I respect their authority to pass a law, and I'm currently administrating it, even if it's not my favorite piece of legislation.
Tracy, what did our county and our state, our voter turnout look like this in 2024? Did we have a lot of engaged? Hi, Jordan. I just saw your comment. Hi, thanks for joining us. Sorry, I just saw you. Do we have a higher amount of voters or less? Like, what does it look like for voter turnout in our county versus our state?
Oh, you're asking me to pull numbers on the fly. But for 2024, going from memory, which is a little sketch right now, I want to say that we had high 80s, maybe 88% voter turnout in the presidential election, which is phenomenal. Like, I was super thrilled to have that much turnout. In many of our other elections, it's far lower. I'd be thrilled to get like 40. I would probably cry if we got 40% voter turnout in an off year, like an odd year, an election year. It's reasonably up there for our off presidential years, but compared to the rest of the state, I feel like for the presidentials, we were all, like, many counties were in the low 80s to mid 90s as far as presidential turnout. So I feel like we're right there with everybody in a nice grouping that, from a data standpoint, which would make sense. But like other years, not so much. So
and this is what bothers me. Is yes, it's so important to vote in the presidential year, and we understand why it's busy, but the actual things that'll affect you the most are in those off years and showing up and voting. That so much gets decided on your behalf by so little people. I mean, in your local municipality races, your turnout should be even higher, because this is going to affect everything about your life. And yet people don't feel as drawn to vote in those races as they would for presidential, when yes, it is important, of course, and I'm an advocate for voting, but I think it should be just as big in the off years. And I hope that all of you will change your mindset about that. Look at it like that. The biggest effect your life is ever going to see is how you vote locally. And
couldn't agree more. I don't know how to do that better, or if there's some piece that's missing. I'm not sure how to engage the voters in that way. Like, I don't know what determines what people do or don't do, but we're doing what we can, and we're sending people ballots, and we're making people aware. And I like the vote by mail system, because even if you didn't know there was an election happening, it shows up in your mailbox, and you go, oh, there's an election happening, even when it's not a presidential year. And that's a great way to be reminded if you're not following it that closely. So I would encourage people to sign up for vote by mail if that's a reminder that they would like. Because if you don't, then you're just going to have to know that you have to come in person, because I won't be sending you something to your home to say, hey, it's election time, please come and see me. Like, that won't be happening. And so
if you want to be signed up for mail-in ballots, you have to go to voteutah.gov.
And that's one place to do it. You can call in to our office. We could take care of that change by phone if you provide some personally identifying information, so we can make sure it's you. You can do that when you fill out your ballot at the next election, and just include that on your insert. There's some instructions there. The vote.utah.gov is one place to find that. You can just fill out a paper registration form, turn it into our office. You can do that at the driver's license office when you go to like renew your driver's license. Yes, there's lots of different ways to go about that, but we're happy to facilitate any of those requests anytime.
Well, I think it's fascinating. I'm so grateful for all the work you do and the team that you do it with. And I would like to conclude this interview with my most sincerest thanks and appreciation. Is there anything that you want to mention that maybe we didn't bring up?
No, I feel like we covered all the bases. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you. It's always good to chat. And if people can geek out with us along the way, then bonus.
Awesome. I agree. Well, you have a wonderful night. My best to you and the family. And I hope to see you tomorrow and tomorrow night.
Thank you. Yep, I will be there and look forward to visiting with you.
Thank you very much, Tracy. It's Mr. Producer here. This was an extremely informative show. And we love Holly. I'm sad that she's not running. Dang it.
Me too. She would be a phenomenal legislator. She has her head wrapped around those issues.
I understand and respect it. It's totally legit. So, okay, ladies. All right. Thank you very much. Good night. You can sign off when you're ready, Holly.
Well, I actually wanted to talk to you, Mr. Producer, and talk about KMMU next as we go forward, because you had an event yesterday and I wanted you to share that.
Oh, we had a big event yesterday. Actually, it was a filming, and we now have a studio down in Salt Lake City, and we had an audience. We had 6 panelists. It was a panel discussion. It was actually run by our two hosts, who are Doug Yeaman and Trent Christensen. You probably know Trent.
I know Trent. Yes.
He ran for AG, I believe, and there was a little controversy there, but where isn't there controversy in politics?
Yeah, I saw that you had Rob Axon there also.
We had Rob Axon. Here were our panelists. Let me go pull my list. It was Rob Axon, Gail Ruzicka. We had Rob was from the state GOP. We had Salt Lake City's Vice Chair, Sarah Don Montes. Who else was there? I got to tell you, I'm exhausted because of all the work we put into it. But Christy Henshaw was there. Rob Bishop, who's running for Congress again. He was our congressman. And then Zach Wilson, who was head of the Young Republicans on the campuses. Do you know Zach?
I love Zach. I love Christy. I love Rob. I mean, these are great people. And you guys, this is from KMMU, and they are our partner in all of this, if not our parent organizer for this. And if you're watching this on the Facebook page, or if you're watching this on YouTube, please tune into KMMU Main Street Media and subscribe to them. They've got a lot of different shows and a number of different hosts like myself, and that are really trying to get into the issues and just truth and transparency, education. We're not trying to tell you how to think. We just want to talk about the issues, get people who know what they're doing or who want your vote, or potentially we'll get our minds going, because
our goal too is to get beyond politics. We have a holistic health show on Thursdays. That's Lori Gagan. I'm going to start doing a show on technology. So we're going to go beyond. I'd really like to have a total conspiracy theory show, about aliens and Sasquatch and that kind of stuff. So we're expanding, and we really want to be Utah's voice. And our show yesterday was called Wake Up Utah. It was very political. It was obviously I told you who was there, but I'd like to branch it out a little bit too. We'd like to be able to compete with the Deseret and the KSLs and the Salt Lake Tribs of the world. Okay,
That would be awesome.
that's where we're going. Total independent journalism. Okay, so
Looking for truth and not agenda driven. That's what I love, and and giving a voice to truth. That's what it should be, in my opinion, and that's why I've wanted to hitch my wagon with KMMU, and I've been so grateful for your guys' help. And Jared and I have just really loved working with you guys.
well, and we have over 400 shows, podcasts that are on YouTube, X, and Rumble. Okay, so we're getting some experience and we're getting some traction, and our goal is to get a bunch of traction and have people listen in live and recorded. This is going to be this was recorded show, and we'll be chopping it up into pieces. The recording ran like 5 hours. No one's going to sit and listen to a 5-hour show, but there were segments that we'll be breaking up. And should someone actually want to listen to 5 hours, it will all be put together into a full video. But we're going to be releasing it over the next 4 weeks or so as chunks.
Excellent.
Topics.
And where do people find it if people wanted to go look?
Well, you can find us on X at Media Utah. You can find us on YouTube at what is it? Main Street Media Utah. We're on Rumble. If you just go look for KMMU, you'll find us on whatever your favorite platform is. Okay.
Excellent. Well, and it's if you guys like and subscribe their stuff, and you'll get all the updates, and as they grow and you're part of it, who knows, it could be a source for news, hopefully, that you'll go to if you want reasonable news, because what we're being fed by the Tribune and Deseret News, you see it now, at least I do. I'm see the agenda, and I don't believe anything I read anymore, and only half of what I see. And now it's becoming, I don't believe anything I see anymore. We need to be in a world where we can talk about issues and we can trust what we're doing. And that's where we need truth in media, and that's where we need giants to stand up. And we're grateful that KMMU is building something.
Well, and we appreciate you, Holly. Thank you for hanging in there with us all these many years. It must be getting dark because you're getting dimmer and dimmer.
I am. I don't understand it. And I got a comment from Jordan who says, I like independent media. Mainstream has failed the public, in my opinion. Having weekly shows will grow too. And that's it. Mainstream media, people, studies are showing that people are no longer looking at mainstream media for their news. They are going to shows like Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson on X and, podcasts, things like that. Whereas before, they would maybe catch those during the week or something when they had time, but they were on the mainstream media at night. It's reversing. It really is. So hopefully we can get people's attention and inform them at the same time. Mr. Producer, are you still with me? I think you're typing. Well, I think this is the end of our show. I am so grateful to all of you, and I miss Jared tonight, but I hope that you guys learned something, and I do recommend you go talk to your county clerk, get to know your clerk's office, and just see if you have issues with the way you think elections are run in your county. Go to the actual location and see how they do it, see what process they're using, what systems they're using, and just go watch a ballot counting one night. I highly recommend it. It's not exciting in any way, but it's really, you get to see the machine. It's not what you saw in election 2020 on all the mainstream media where people were being, kicked out and not able to count ballots and things like that. It is.
I think, sorry, I got dumped out. I was just doing too many things. but I think they've solved all the glitches, and things are going to work much smoother. They've been hammering on that stuff, and it was technology problems, okay, with
Right.
registration and that sort of stuff. I think they've got it fixed. Thank you, Rob Axon.
Yeah, he's great. Hey, everybody, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And again, thank you for spending your evening with me. And I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday on Political Head Trauma. And thank you, Mr. Producer, for your
You're going to come back next
technical
week?
wisdom. Yes, sir.
God bless you. All right. We'll see you next week.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Good night.